Yahoo, Amina! Before we get too far into this review, this is not really one that I would watch if you're of a sensitive disposition or with anyone below adult age, as the contents of this game are, in parts, frankly disgusting. Not due to violence or gore, but because of a couple of the story arcs that the game features. You are warned. But it may answer why in later years Gunbird was released late on in the PlayStation's life by XS Games, with its story ripped out as Mobile Light Force. On with the show, I guess. Gunbird was first released into arcades in 1994 and went on to be an early shmup ported both to the PlayStation and the Sega Saturn, as well as other systems since then. Today, I'm looking at the PlayStation version. Gunbird itself is a fairly straightforward shooter, 7 short stages with multi-phase boss fights at the end of each stage, 2-player capabilities carried over into these home ports, and a range of diverse characters to play as. If I was rating this game on the impact the story has on it as a whole package, I'd make a whole new rating for this game. 0, meaning don't play it. But in the end, I decided to rate it purely on the gameplay. But I'm not going to ignore the elephant in the room here. I'm going to hit the jugular straight away on what has made this such a tough game for me to review. One of the story arcs in this game is absolutely abhorrent in what it's depicting, and the other is just so sad and unnecessary. Just briefly, given my run-ins with Wikipedia as a source of information not becoming infamous, on the English language Gunbird page, the game is described as frequently packed with hilarious dialogue and situations. Well, let's describe some of that hilarity. Paedophilia and homophobia of all bloody things. Yes, as one Wikipedia editor described it, hilarious. Baka baka shi! Let's start with the arc concerning Marion, a 13-year-old witch from the UK, and Ash, a 28-year-old German archaeologist adventurer. Between stages, Ash leches over Marion and makes it quite clear he's only interested in kids. Well, there goes the neighbourhood. And the other arc, again involving Ash, but this time with a gay protagonist Tetsu, which in itself is not a problem, but the story invokes cheap homophobia. Lovely. Yes, this is a shoot-'em-up. I have to wonder what possessed the scriptwriter whose name is out there to write this kind of absolute dross. This is all in the original Japanese text as well, not in an English translation that has taken liberties with the script. It's such a shame because there is at least one story when in 2-player mode between Marion and Tetsu that's actually rather funny. Gunbird was released as part of a compilation known as Gunbird 1 and 2 in Japan and Gunbird Special in Europe on the PlayStation 2. Out of curiosity, I played through the Ash and Marion arc and also the Ash and Tetsu arc in the English translation, and it has at least cut out the most egregious bits of the story, as well as making Marion 18 years old. The Ash and Tetsu arc doesn't explicitly say Tetsu is gay until the very end when their wish is about to be granted, saying that he wanted a good-looking boyfriend. But the undertones of Ash's homophobia are still there, though some players may have been oblivious to why he was calling Tetsu a weirdo, for example. It's true that when Gunbird was made, Japan's age of consent was 13, but that doesn't make any of this better, with its explicit mentions of lolicon and so forth, and Ash's profile in the game specifically pointing out his liking of girls under the age of 14. Ew, gross dudes, there is just no need for it. Not good, guys, not good at all. No wonder all of this was stripped out of the Mobile Light Force release and later Gunbird Special re-release. Some will say, yeah, the story sucks, but you just have to review the game, darling. Stop bringing reality into games. But I can't in good faith review this game without detailing some of its awful nature, especially as all of it was totally avoidable. Anyway, having got the worst that Gunbird dealt with right there, let's talk about the gameplay. Mechanically, this is a very simple vertically scrolling shmup with difficulty settings, the easiest named Monkey, which means pretty much anyone can beat this game. In-game, the story borrows heavily from the time Bokan trope of a gang of villains, named the Trump Gang of all things. You take on the gang led by the haughtily voiced Rouge, with a two dumb as box of Rop's assistants Ace and Claude. The story goes that each player is looking to collect 4 pieces of the mirror to make a wish of theirs come true. However, on completing the 4th stage and thus collecting all pieces of the mirror, it is revealed that Atla's lair is a further 3 stages away before your wish will be granted. Two pickups are available, one which improves your main shot and one which adds an additional special attack. Your main weapon can degrade over time, so you'll need to keep it topped up as well. I've never been a great fan of this mechanic, but at least it doesn't become too obnoxious in Gunbird. In addition to the rapid fire, which is on the triangle button by default on the PlayStation, a charge shot is available by holding down the square button, which can do a devastatingly powerful special attack. Naturally, the form of your attacks depends on your character, with Marion's being the most general purpose and Yan Yan's attacks being ideal for beginners. Depending on your options, an extra life is gained at 40,000 or 60,000 points, and on losing all of them, you can continue but usually from the start of the stage. As the stages are really quite short, this is not a huge penalty, and really, that's all there is to Gunbird. End to end, if you're proficient at it, you can beat it in about 20 minutes or so. Gunbird is a fairly good introduction to bullet hell shooters, as clipping an enemy will just bump your weapon level down a notch, and using your special attack will clear all projectiles from the screen, saving you in a tight spot. Likewise, just clipping a projectile won't necessarily kill you outright. It does get quite tricky though on normal level, but is definitely doable with practice, and that may well be a good thing in the long run if you want to get good at shmups. Two-player, as mentioned, survives the port to home consoles and adds a cooperative element, as you can always rejoin the action in the stage after losing your lives by hitting start. Overall, Gunbird is a very simple shmup that, if it wasn't for its anime-inspired character designs and Psycho heritage, it would have probably been totally forgotten. The biggest flaw, story aside, that exists on both the PlayStation and Saturn ports is that the standard gameplay mode requires a little vertical shifting as the screen scrolls upwards, as in the arcades the display was vertically orientated, or tate as it's known in Japanese. The Saturn version does actually add a tate option, which allows you to turn your display 90 degrees, making it virtually arcade perfect, or you can adjust the controls to allow you to play it as a horizontal shmup, with controls mapped accordingly. Sadly, the PlayStation version lacks these options. Personally, I'm not too fussed about which is more arcade accurate, as there are ways of playing the arcade version these days in the home. But I think the biggest knock on the PlayStation version is how it affects the gameplay, and in turn the game graphically. Because some things are outside of your field of view unless you move up or down, it can mean you're fighting enemies off screen, which is both dull to look at as you can't see them, but luckily it doesn't affect the gameplay too much because you will be dealing with fire from off-screen enemies. Thankfully, on the latter point, it doesn't harm the gameplay too much. It's a shame the graphics weren't scaled down to fit the standard orientation. Raiden Project managed it earlier in 1995 on the PlayStation, and that game also had a tate option in the Japanese release to boot. Graphically, Gunbird is a decidedly average game. The opening FMV is of low quality in terms of resolution and frame rate, and the arcade's original opening is present but as an FMV, which degrades its quality as well. I found the graphics fine in-game, with some nice details here and there, and the characterizations are done well, but the stage coloration was a bit drab and monotone in parts. The PlayStation version has a very occasional stutter as well, but it mostly plays smoothly, and two-player doesn't seem to dent performance further either. The Saturn version is again apparently better in this regard, but if you play the PlayStation version, these stutters won't harm your ability to get through the game at all. I enjoyed the soundtrack, but again it's nothing particularly noteworthy, although I enjoyed the flourishes at the end of each stage, which evoked a nice arcade vibe. I describe it as competent overall in gameplay. It brought the arcade version over, and that's about it, which, to be fair, in 1995 was a remarkable thing to be able to play arcade quality games in the home. Last, some people noted that the PlayStation version doesn't save high scores, but mine seemed to do this just fine, so I'm not sure what I've done different. So to sum up, Gunbird has been an interesting game to review for probably the wrong reasons due to its story. I think as a game it does serve one purpose though, to help you get better at shmups, or bullet hell shooters in particular. Up to the normal difficulty level, it is accessible, but it does get proper hard at its most difficult levels. The stages being short don't outlive themselves, and the Trump Gang's depiction, though a bit hackneyed, is amusing and well depicted, even though it's a total knockoff to Time Bokan series' Dorombo Gang. And the PlayStation version isn't that bad compared to the Saturn either. There is a tendency to slate the PlayStation's 2D capability completely, and that's unfair. Even if the Saturn was indeed a superior 2D powerhouse, ultimately I'm here just for the gameplay, and this version plays well. Japanese language level-wise, well, it's a conversational level game and its cutscenes with a now infamous story, but you can easily play this game with no Japanese knowledge at all, as the interface is entirely in English, so I rate the Japanese level overall as none. As I say, not all of the two-player story arcs take a leap into the abyss, so some stories are indeed amusing to read. Previously, I reviewed another shmup, Time Bokan, Bokan Toy Patsu Dorombo on the PlayStation. That was a shooter that was a little rough around the edges, but I prefer its presentation, its lack of heinous story, its approachability, and it delivers its variation not via characters, but via different mechs that you could use. And you could get to play as the baddies as well, which is always rad. I've yet to play Gunbird 2. Maybe it's better, but I feel that Gunbird is a shmup that's more known for seeming to be like Cotton without it being a Cotton game, because otherwise, there's nothing that special about it. In short, if you're gunning for a vertical shmup from the earliest days of the PlayStation, Raiden Project is vastly superior. As always, like, subscribe and all of that shit, and also check out this rad Rubbish Heap merch, available worldwide on Redbubble and Amazon. See the links below for how to purchase. I've been Saki Endo, and this has been a Rubbish Heap. Ja ne ne!